Welcome to the It Factor. We're Jemmy and Nye, exploring a new blog post by Mr. Len Kaplan, CEO of CDML and MSP in Queens, NY, offering network management, voice-over internet protocol, and unified communications as a service, cybersecurity, compliance, infrastructure as a service, cloud, and Microsoft 365 and Azure solutions.
That's right.
If you're a small business owner or manage IT for a growing organization, this deep dive is for you.
Definitely.
We're tackling the Routers Act today and trying to cut through the noise, understand what it really means for your business.
Exactly. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding this new legislation. We're sifting through Mr. Kaplan's insights, some of the news around the Routers Act, to highlight what's critical for you.
Right.
How it could impact your network security and ultimately your profits.
Okay, so the Routers Act, that's quite the name. Removing our unsecured technologies to ensure Reliability and Security Act.
Bit of a mouthful, yeah.
It sailed through the House of Representatives with support from both sides of the aisle. That alone makes you think, okay, something's going on here. What's the core of this act, really?
Well, what's really interesting is that this act kicks off a study. It's handled by the Department of Commerce.
A study, not a ban.
Not right out of the gate, no.
Yeah.
Instead, they're going to be taking a hard look at the national security risks, specifically from those everyday consumer-grade routers, modems, and those all-in-one combo devices.
Okay.
And the focus is on ones coming from specific countries considered, well, countries of concern. We're talking China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, Cuba, and Venezuela.
So a very specific list there. It's not just random. What's driving that focus? What's the study actually looking for?
Good question. The study will involve a detailed inventory of these devices, yes, but also a deep dive into their firmware, the software that runs them and how it gets updated.
Firmware updates.
Okay. The big worry, as reported by Cyberscoop, is uncovering hidden weaknesses, vulnerabilities that could potentially be exploited by these adversarial nations.
Right.
Congressman Latta, and this was highlighted by X News, put it pretty plainly, the goal is to shield American communications networks from tech controlled by foreign powers. Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And this feels like a continuation of something we've seen before, doesn't it? Weren't there similar concerns about companies like Huawei and ZTE a while back?
That's a great point, yes.
How does this Routers Act fit into that broader picture?
It definitely follows that trend. Cyberscoop connects it directly to previous actions like the Secure and Trusted Communications Networks Act and the Secure Equipment Act. It really signals an ongoing, and I'd say increasing scrutiny in Washington when it comes to technology that could present a national security risk.
All right, so a government study, ongoing scrutiny. Interesting, but what's the immediate relevance for, say, a small business owner, someone just trying to keep their shop running, their website online? Why should someone running a bakery or maybe an accounting firm be worried about this now?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And this is where Mr. Kaplan's blog post really provides value.
Yeah.
He stresses that your router isn't just a box giving you Wi-Fi.
Right.
It's the gateway, the entry point to your entire digital operation, your sensitive data, customer info, financial records, everything. If that entry point has weaknesses,
then everything connected, your whole network, is potentially vulnerable. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you put it like that.
Exactly.
Mr. Kaplan's blog mentioned the possibility of hidden vulnerabilities or even backdoors in routers from certain countries. Can you unpack that risk a bit more?
Sure. Think of it like this. Some manufacturers, maybe they just don't have the strictest security processes, right? So that could lead to accidental flaws, bugs in the software. That's bad enough.
Okay.
But worse, there's the concern, and this was highlighted by congressional investigations involving manufacturers like TP-Link, that some devices could intentionally include hidden access points, backdoors, basically a secret way in for unauthorized access to your network.
And the fallout from something like that, for a small business, it could be catastrophic, couldn't it? Not just a minor tech issue.
Precisely. Catastrophic is a good word. Mr. Kaplan outlined some very real financial dangers. A breach can trigger huge regulatory fines, especially if you handle sensitive customer data like PII or health info.
Yeah, the compliance aspect.
Absolutely destroys customer trust, too, which, that's everything for a small business.
Yeah.
And then there are the direct costs, fixing the IT mess, potential legal fees, lost productivity while you're sorting it out. It adds up fast.
The blog post also raised a point I hadn't really considered. Supply chain disruptions. How could this act actually lead to those for small businesses?
Well, imagine the Commerce Department finishes its study, right? And it flags a specific brand or maybe a type of router that's really common, widely used by small businesses. They might issue warnings or even restrictions on using that equipment. So if your business relies on that specific router model, boom, you could suddenly be forced to replace it, maybe quickly.
Right, when you least expect it or can least afford it.
Exactly. During a critical business period, maybe, that puts a real strain on your finances, your operations, everything.
That's a really practical worry, and it sounds like the implications might ripple outwards even beyond just replacing the hardware itself. The blog mentions cyber insurance and compliance audits.
Yeah, good point. Cyber insurance providers, various regulatory bodies, they often look to federal guidelines for their standards. So it's definitely plausible that once this study concludes, maybe insurers start asking for proof you're using approved or, let's say, hardened routers as a condition for getting coverage or keeping your premiums down.
Ah, okay. Like a new requirement.
Could be.
Yeah.
And similarly, compliance audits, think HIPAA, PCI DSS, stuff like that, they might start requiring adherence to whatever new federal standards come out of this for your network hardware.
It's like a domino effect, starting with this study. So for a small business owner listening right now, this might feel a bit overwhelming. What are some concrete steps they can actually take to prepare?
It can feel overwhelming, but Mr. Kaplan's blog lays out some very clear, actionable advice. It's not impossible. First step, take stock of what you actually have.
Okay.
Do a network device audit. Simple as that. Make a list. All your routers, your Wi-Fi access points, those modem router combo units, note down the brand, the model number, what firmware version it's running, and critically, when it was last updated.
Just getting the facts down seems manageable. What's next after they have that inventory?
Well, if you already work with a managed services provider, an MSP like CDML, now's the time to lean on them. Talk to them about this.
You use that resource.
Definitely. They can proactively monitor firmware updates for you, advise on secure replacements if something you have gets flagged, and just generally help make sure your network aligns with any evolving federal guidance.
And if you don't have an MSP?
Might be a good time to consider the benefits. Having that expert support can be invaluable, especially with things like this potentially changing.
Right. Get the experts involved. The blog also talked about something every small business owner gets. Budget. How does that fit in?
Yes. Budget. Mr. Kaplan has a smart suggestion there. He recommends earmarking a portion of your annual IT budget. Maybe think 5 to 10% specifically for hardware refreshes.
Proactive planning.
Exactly. This way, if you do need to replace equipment because of these new guidelines or just because it's old, you're not scrambling for funds unexpectedly. It's planned for.
Smart. That's proactive financial thinking. And what was the last piece of actionable advice from the blog?
It really comes down to strengthening those fundamental cyber hygiene practices, things you should probably be doing anyway, right?
Like what, specifically?
Enforce strong, unique passwords for accessing your router's settings.
Yeah.
The admin controls. Don't use admin and password.
Please don't.
Seriously.
Also, segment your networks. Keep your guest Wi-Fi totally separate from your internal business network. And finally, make sure you have a regular routine for checking and applying firmware updates to your routers. Don't just set it and forget it.
These are just good security practices overall, regardless of this specific act, really.
Absolutely. They reduce your risk across the board.
Now, the blog also drew a connection to past security issues. Things like Chinese manufactured laptops found with firmware backdoors or those internet-connected cameras, IoT devices being used in botnets. How does the router fit into this bigger picture?
Well, the quote from Congressman Lada that Mr. Kaplan included really nails it. He basically called the router the next frontier for potential vulnerabilities.
The next frontier. Okay.
We've seen security holes exploited in laptops, in servers, and IoT gadgets. But the router, it's the central connection point. As Lada said, if the gateway itself is compromised, every packet flowing in or out of your network is at risk.
So it's foundational. Compromise that and everything else is exposed. Precisely.
Yeah.
It's a critical piece of your security infrastructure.
Okay, so what's the timeline here? The House passed the Routers Act. Where does it go now? What happens next?
The blog post points out the next step is the Senate. So the bill moves over there. It will likely be debated further, maybe amended. You know how that process goes.
Yeah, it could change.
It could. So final decisions are still pending. It's not law yet.
Okay. So while things move along in Washington, the key message for small businesses really seems to be, don't wait, be prepared.
Exactly that. Taking these preparatory steps, now doing that inventory, talking to your MSP or finding one, setting aside some budget, tightening up those security policies. It isn't just about dodging a potential future bullet.
It's more than just risk mitigation.
Oh yeah, it's an opportunity. Strengthening your overall security posture, being able to show you take this seriously, that can actually be a competitive advantage. It builds trust with clients and partners.
That's a great way to look at it, turning a potential compliance headache into a positive business differentiator.
Absolutely.
And for our listeners who want to dive deeper, maybe get some direct help with this, what does CDML recommend?
So CDML encourages you to reach out to them. They offer a no-cost security assessment, which is pretty great. It's designed to help you build what they call a supply chain aware defense. Basically, understanding these kinds of risks.
And how can people find them?
You can find their contact info easily on their website. That's cdml.dael/contact. So https://cdml.com contact.
Okay, cdml.com contact. Got it.
And they also have a ton of information on their blog, which is where Mr. Kaplan's post came from. That's at cdml.com/blog-2.
Blog 2.
Yep. And they even have video insights on their YouTube channel. Just search for CDML Computer Services on YouTube. Lots of resources there.
Fantastic. Seems like plenty of ways to get more info or get help. It really sounds like staying informed and taking those proactive steps now is the smartest play for small businesses navigating this whole evolving security landscape.
Couldn't agree more. In the world of cybersecurity, being informed and, more importantly, prepared is always your best defense. You don't want to be caught flat-footed.
Well said.
Stay vigilant.
Till next time.